Hi, welcome to my views and news. Four news stories from Ethiopia. Firstly, on Sunday, protests across the US were due to be held, announced by Amhara diaspora organizations. Protests were held. How big were these protests? Can we say that Amhara diaspora failed to attract huge crowds? Obviously, the protests were against Ethiopian government. PM Abiy was declared a killer in these protests. What happened? I have details for you, a few clips as well. Secondly, protest in Tigray, where teachers protesting in Shire. What do they want? Thirdly, Fano fighters have carried out another attack in Ago Avi zone. This is second attack by Fano fighters in a town in Ago Avi zone. They had entered Dangala a few days ago. They released prisoners from Dangala. Then another attack. Lastly, gradually Somalia's security forces are taking over the security affairs. Villa Somalia now is under the control of these indigenous security forces. Firstly, viewers, on Sunday, protests were due to be held across the US. Some diaspora organizations had called for these protests. Though there were splits, I read a video a few days ago when some diaspora organizations opposed the protest which was due to be held in Los Angeles. Preparations were being made for protests across the US. And some protests did happen on Sunday in the US. We have seen clips of the protests from New York, Washington, Los Angeles, and other places in the US. But it seems the diaspora organizations failed to put up a big, impressive show. Compare these protests with the No More rallies of 2021, when Ethiopian non-Tigrayan diaspora managed to pull large crowds in protests. And those No More rallies were big rallies by Ethiopian diaspora against alleged US support for the TPLF. Now diaspora is split. Even Amhara diaspora seems to be split, though Amhara diaspora supports Fano and fundraising events in the US, in Europe for Fano have been organized, still being organized. Amhara diaspora is financially supporting Fano groups. But to say that entire Amhara diaspora community is standing behind Fano would be an exaggeration. Or you can say that there is no representative Amhara diaspora body in the US, in Canada, in Europe. There are disputes between these organizations. They mistrust each other, it seems. That is why I think Sunday's call for big shows could not succeed. There were a few rallies, but not any big rally was seen at the call of diaspora organizations. Some clips for you from Los Angeles, New York, Washington, showing the protests by Amhara diaspora community. They chanted slogans against Ethiopian government, Ethiopian PM, saying that Abiy is a genocider. Abiy was a genocider for Tigrayans in 2021. Back then, Amharas were, some Amhara diaspora organizations were part of the demonstrations against TPLF. Now Abiy is a genocider for Amharas. Some Eritrean activists were also seen, like Simon Tesfamariam, attending the Amhara diaspora protests against Ethiopian government. Watch a few clips from these demonstrations, then next news story.
I still want to live happily every day, yet we lose family every day. Is a killer.
Secondly, was Tigray, where teachers are protesting. According to Tigray, regional media protest has been held in Shire by teachers who remained unpaid for 17 months during the war, 2 year long war. They are demanding payment of the salaries which are unpaid. And secondly, they protested for writing of loans. They got some loans, they acquired loans from government organizations, and they want the loans to be written off, to be cancelled now. Protest in Tigray. Apart from these protests, we must not forget that humanitarian situation in Tigray still is very dire. USAID, World Food Program, have resumed food aid supply to Tigray, to Ethiopia, but not entirely. Only 10 to 20% resumption has been made so far, reportedly. Still, there is dire humanitarian crisis in Tigray. And the crisis is getting worse in Amhara too. I mostly cover the military side of the conflict in Amhara, but humanitarian side should not be neglected as well. People are suffering. The people are suffering because of the conflict in the Amhara region. Healthcare facilities are being hit. In some cases, they're being used by Fano fighters. In some other cases, they're being hit by Ethiopian Air Force in strikes. So overall, humanitarian situation in Ethiopia is not improving because one after the other, new conflicts are starting. Thirdly, viewers, Fano fighters carried out another attack in Ago Avi zone last night. Second attack by Fano in Ago Avi zone in the past 1 week. They entered Dangala last week and they freed prisoners from Dangala prison there. They abducted Tigrayan members of Ethiopian National Defense Force who were imprisoned in Dangala prison center. Then last night they entered Tilili. Tilili is also an Ago zone, though it's close to Gujum. It's not in the heart of Ago zone. It's on Ago zone Gujum border, you can say, to some extent. And Fano managed to enter Tilili last night. There was heavy fighting. And Fano stormed some government buildings there. Reportedly, they stole weapons and logistics, and then they withdrew from the Delhi. There was fighting between ENDF and Fano outside Tilili. ENDF suffered some losses. Fano fighters managed to advance and they entered Tilili. They withdrew from Tilili reportedly. That is what they do, by the way. They enter towns, cities, they get logistics, weapons, ammunition, then they retreat. And that is what they did in Tilili last night, reportedly. Last words, Somalia's parliament is being protected by Somalia's troops now. Years ago, arms embargo was imposed in Somalia, and Somalia was not allowed to raise army and arm its forces. An African Union peace mission was deployed to Somalia. Since then, key installations in Somalia have been under the African Union peacekeeping mission. Gradually now, Somalia's forces are taking over the security of key facilities. By the end of this year, thousands of African Union troops are going to withdraw from Somalia. I think by the end of next year, almost all African Union troops will leave Somalia, and Somalia's security will be in the hands of indigenous forces. Somalia arms embargo on Somalia has been lifted a few days ago. UN Security Council voted, and arms embargo on Somalia was lifted. Somalia is getting its soldiers trained. Eritrea training Somalia's soldiers, and some other countries too. Neighbors helping Somalia. Somalia is on its way to build a military and army. Though basically it's a fractured state. It would take a long time for Somalia to build a large army. Let's see. But it's a good development that at least Villa Somalia and Somalia's parliament is now being secured by Somalia's forces. Ugandan soldiers were deployed there who have handed over the charge to Somalia's forces. Which country will have more influence in Somalia now when Somalia is going to have its own military? Eritrea, Egypt, US, Uganda, Kenya. Let's see. I think all will be fighting for influence in Somalia. Thank you for watching.